Hello, fellow Bubble developers. Nikolai Markovich from Echolake Technologies, echolaketech.com. In this video, I'm going to show you how to add and remove data from a repeating group. Before I do a demo, please subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up if you like these videos. I do appreciate it. So in this example here, we have this user, Susan Smith, and she's got these three classes: geometry, English, and biology. And if we wanted to go and add a class, we could go over here and add algebra. And we can see that algebra was added to the list here. And then if we wanted to go and remove a class, let's say she's going to remove geometry, we can update it. And now geometry is removed from her list. So let's go dive in and see how to design this. Okay, so I have this repeating group from an early video, and I'll put the link in below. And what I've got here is another repeating group, so a child nested repeating group, if you will, to the parent repeating group. And if you look over here on the left, you can see this top level repeating group here, user. And then within it, you have the child repeating group here, and that's of type class. So we have different data types on here, and this one is of type class, so we can see the classes that this person is signed up for. And basically for the data on here, it's the current users, classes, and then I have a sort by the class name. And the reason I'm able to do that is because in the data structure, and I'm just going to jump over here, under users, I have classes, and then classes is of list type, or list of classes rather. And to set that up, I basically can come down here to create a new field, and then I'll just make something up here, and it's of type class, and then select it as a multiple, so it's a list here. And that's how you set up classes. And then basically for this field here, let me just go, I'm going to copy this whole repeating group and mark it up as we go. So copy with workflows, there's a couple of different copying options here. So I'm just going to do copy with workflows. So then that way I have all the workflows. I can go and walk you through those, paste the workflows and everything here. All right, so basically to do this, it is current cells user, and then classes. And then there's if you scroll down here, sorted, and then it's sorted by class name, and then descending is yes. And it's as simple as that. Now you've probably seen another way of doing these data sources with a search. I could have just as easily done that here. Do a search for classes, and then over here I could have done student contains current cells user. So that achieves the same search. The same data will go into this repeating group here. And to add this repeating group, so let me just delete it completely. And I come over here to the left-hand side, down to containers and repeating group. And I just put that right in there. The default is 4 rows. I'm going to just change this to 2. Type of content, again, is class. And then so on and so forth. So user, classes, and that's how you set it up. The text field that I put inside here, and in your design you might have other data in here as well, but it's basically current cells user and then first name. And it's that simple for setting up this this repeating group. And we come back up to this main design here. All right, so I've got 2 icons that I've added on here. This first one is to add class, and the second is to remove class. In this video, I'm going to focus on adding class, and then I'm going to have a part 2 video that shows how to remove the class. And for this one, for an icon, if you're not familiar, so under visual elements, icon, and just simply add that in there. And I think I just had book, and that's how you add the icon. Now on here I have a conditional as well, so when the icon is hovered, then it changes the color. So if you come over here, you can see how it changes the color. I do these color changes as a visual cue for the icons. It's kind of a nice little touch from a user experience. And now let me come back over here to the icon and the workflow for it. All right, so for the workflow, I'm actually going to be opening up a pop-up. If you remember, let me just do a refresh here. And when it refreshes, so when I click on it, it has this pop-up. And so to do that workflow, display data to pop-up add classes, and then the data to display is the current user, current cells user. And basically what this does is it tells Bubble that from this cell within the repeating group, so from this cell in the repeating group, when I click on this icon here, I'm going to send that data to the pop-up, that user, current cells user's data to the pop-up. And then I'm going to show the pop-up. And let me just walk through the display data here. So display data and pop-up, it's element actions, display data. Then I pick the pop-up add classes, and then the data to display, current cells user. And Bubble is really nice because it helps, it guides you with some of these fields to fill in. The next one, show pop-up to add class. Again, element actions, and then show, and then the pop-up, add classes. And that's how that workflow works. Now let's go to the pop-up itself, add classes. Okay, so for this pop-up here, you can see it's of type data. And just to go back over here, we are sending the current users, current cells user. So that's the type of data that the pop-up is looking for. Now, if I were to go and change this to something else, you'll see there's errors on here. So we have to make sure, and this is very important, that in the workflow, when you're sending data to a pop-up, that you have the same data type. So user here again, and in the workflow here, we're sending current cells user. Now, in this workflow, or rather in this pop-up, I have this text field. So I'm just showing the parent group user's first name and the parent group's last name. And just real quick for this one, insert dynamic data, parent group's user, and then I scroll down to first name, and then similarly for the last name. I just delete this. Just real quick over on the data. So for users, you can see there's a bunch of data fields that I've got for users here. So in this video, I'm just using the first name and the last name. Now the other item I have in here, or the element that I have in here, is this multi drop-down classes. And for this one, the default is static choices. So I could have gone in and added some choices in here. But for this one, it's actually dynamic. And the reason why it's dynamic, as you can imagine, is that for each user, they're going to have 1, 2, 3, however many choices. And so we want to have dynamic so we can go and search from the database. The type of choices that we want are class, right? Because we want to show what the options are for classes. And then we're going to do a search for classes. And for this one, it's going to be the student doesn't contain parent group's user. And you may be wondering, well, why do we want to do this? Well, the reason why we do this is because if the person has already signed up for a class, so for instance, let me just close this. So English, this person's already signed up for English. And so when I go to add a class, I don't want to have English as a class option. So the way we do that is when we do the search for classes, we want to show that the student isn't already taking that class. I'm just going to jump over to the database here for the data structure for class. And for class, we have the students in here. So list of users. So this is the way in the database that you keep track of the people, the users, the students who are taking a specific class. Let me just jump over here and you can see, I'll just open up one of these classes, the students that are taking this specific class. And so for this search, again, here, we want to show the classes where the student isn't already part of that class. So the students doesn't contain in the parent group's user. And that's how you set that up. Now for options here, Bubble does come up with a default of current options. You just click on that, and then you can see all of the different fields that you can choose from for that particular data type, in this case class, and we want to show class name. And that's basically how you set this up. I've got a conditional here. This is just a standard conditional actually for the multi dropdown. And real quick for the multi dropdown, it is under inputs. And where is multi dropdown? A little bit lower. There we are. Multi dropdown, down, way down at the bottom here. So multi dropdown, and that's what it is. Again, default static. Change it to dynamic and go through and fill out the rest, like I just walked through. And then for the buttons to add and close, so I'm just going to start with close here. And for this one, all we have is reset pop-up add class to reset the data field, the input field for that multi input, and then we hide it. So real quick here, element action, reset data, and then add classes. And then over here, hide pop-up, so element actions, hide. And that's all there is for this workflow. Now I do want to actually show you something real quick. That's why we have the reset. So right now we have the reset, and so say we add this class, but I don't actually add it and I close. So when I come back, there's no data in there. There's no class chosen. Now, if I go back here to that workflow and I remove this reset, just to delete it here, I go refresh, I go over here, I add a class, and then I close it, and then I come back, the class is still there. So this is why it's important to have that reset pop-up add classes in there. Okay, now for the little more complicated workflow, I suppose, is the add button. And for this one, we're going to make a change to the user. And so again, it's a parent group's user. And then for classes, we're going to add a list. And the list is going to be the multi drop-down classes value. So classes and add list. Now, you may be wondering why add list, and the reason is because when the user comes over here to add classes, they can add multiple classes to it, not just one. So the add would be typically used just for adding a single piece of data, but since we can add multiple, we add a list. Now, one thing I want to also share with you that you may not be familiar with, you see as I move through the choices here, you see the C reference here. And this is, I use this regularly. Bubble has these nice little reference documents. So this explains what set list and add list and remove list and so forth does. So just be aware of that. And the reason why this one is to add list is because this one is actually going to add the data to that user. And then a multi drop down here is for classes and value. And that's how you set up that step of the workflow. The next one is, well, let me back up for a moment. So what we did here, back to the database, is I'm going to come down to user, and let me go down to the bottom. This user is way down here. Actually, I clicked the wrong button on that one. Let me just close this and get back to running the user that I had all set up. Okay, here we go. Now this user 6. All right, so in the data structure I have classes, and these are the 3 classes that user has. So we've updated the user, and next step in the workflow is we're going to update class. And the reason why we're doing it in both places, and I'll put a link into the video here, is because this allows you to show the data of a user. And this one here is using with a search. And then this one, because the data structure is set up correctly, I don't need to use a search. So this is basically pulling it right out of the user's database from over here, from user, versus doing a search for classes. And again, I'll put the link in for the video for how to do that. All right, back to the workflow. On this one here, again, class, we want to update that. And for class name is in the multi drop-down classes value, and then each class name. So basically what we're doing here is we're making a change to a list of classes. So again, a person could be signed up for multiple classes, so we're not making a change to a single class, we're making a change to a list of classes, and this search will accomplish that. And just to show you how to do that, so class name is in, and then the multi drop down. So let me just type multi drop down, classes, value, and then scroll down here. And if you don't finish typing, Bubble is very good to remind you you've got more work to do. So each item's class name, just like that. So now basically this search is going to be looking for all the classes that are in the drop-down menu. And then when it does that, it's going to add that student to that list. So students, add, and then parent groups user. And again, the reason why we're doing add here instead of a list is because we are adding a single user to that list of students. And then reset, same as we did before on the inputs, and then we hide it. So just real quick on making a change to user. So making a change to a thing, and that thing is going to be parent groups user, like we have over here. And then I already walked through making that change for the adding classes. So I'm not going to walk through that again. And then the next one is make changes to a list of classes. So before we did a change of make changes to a thing, and now under data it's make changes to a list of things. And that list of things is going to be class, right? And then the search, I'm just going to copy it over here because we just walked through that. And that's how you set up the change a list of things. So just take care if you're making changes to a single thing. So again, making changes to a thing, a single thing versus a list of things. Now the thing here is the user, and then the list of things are classes, because there's multiple classes that a single user could be taking. And then so that's basically it for setting it up to go and add classes to users. And then in the next video, I will walk through how to remove classes from them. Again, if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up and please sign up, subscribe to my channel. I do appreciate it, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Thanks.